Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 142nd episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we are going to be discussing what values should we be living by. So we hope that you are eagerly excited to hear what we have to say and you are waiting impatiently for the next couple of minutes of your life. It's, you know what time it is, y'all. WokeNFree Nation. It is Tasha's monologue. So without further ado,
all right,
let's get started. First, if you have gone to WokeNFree.com and you have downloaded the episode through the Podbean app, bravo. We love and adore you. That's amazing because that's the one way that you can interact with the show. That's how you can put in your comments. You can tell us, guys, you're out of pocket. Guys, I love you. Guys, I have no words, but I just want to say guys. You can say whatever you want through the comments. And that is how we can engage with you. So that's really how you join the conversation. So please make sure you do that. If for some reason you are unable to download the Podbean app and get the ability to conversate with us that way, then all that we ask is make sure that you're following and subscribe to the show on whatever platforms you're listening on. So if you're like, I got you through iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify. I mean, some of those other platforms you can comment as well. But if you want to directly comment through the Podbean app, we would love that. So that is definitely the number one best way to win us over. But, you know, a close second would be hitting us up and making sure that you're following the conversation on those other platforms that I mentioned. Now, when it comes to sharing is always caring. Absent COVID-19. Let's stay home if we're sick. Let's not cough in each other's mouths, guys. This is like a literal global pandemic. So let's be responsible and listen to WokeNFree safely in your home, 6 feet apart from others.
Decent tip.
For sure. And in those 6 feet apart of social distancing, make sure that you're still sharing on social media. That doesn't spread COVID. Make sure if you do want to shout, you do it 6 feet away from their window. That way you're all good.
Even if you got the mask?
Especially with the mask, a little especially.
Oh, all right.
And then when it comes to social media, make sure that if you have something to say to us, you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, and now TikTok at WokeNFree. And we're putting some funny things on the TikTok, guys. So make sure you're following and you're liking, following us up there, as well as those other platforms I mentioned. And then lastly, if you got 90 seconds, see guys, 90 seconds, what would we love for you to review the show? So give us your feedback on the overall thoughts you have on the show, whether that's on iTunes or TuneIn or iHeartRadio or some other platform that you're catching the show. Go to WokeNFree.com, go on the listen tab, and then you'll be able to, pick your platform that you want to give your feedback on and or subscribe to.
Yes.
Scene end.
That was a long one, I think.
I was getting a bit winded at the end.
All
so
right.
we had
At least you made it.
Look at God.
As you know, we like to share a little bit about us before we dive into the topic for the episode. Last week we asked, which of these states would you rather visit, Alaska or Hawaii? This week we are asking, how do you eat an Oreo? Take a bite or twist each in half?
My simple answer is neither. Oreos are currently off the table for me. I will plan to talk about this in an upcoming episode, but I'm on a new nutritional journey and fitness journey, and a part of that is because I have a leaky gut. Yeah, super attractive. So
it happens.
Sometimes they get leaky, guys, and so currently eliminating things that unfortunately are delicious, but I just can't have. But in my heyday, when I was having more than I should, I would say my personal preference of eating an Oreo would be to bite right into it. I like the twists. I used to try it as a kid and I would just get annoyed and I wanted more of the fudge, so I would just bite in. That's
you get annoyed?
Because I felt like I wasn't having the double effect of the fudge on both sides. I was only having it on each side and I was like, I want both. It was just a bad moment.
Right.
Yeah, so, but that was in my heyday. How about you? How do you like them?
Yeah, I'm trying not to eat those anymore because they're not made with real sugar. So I usually would do both, actually. Mostly just bite into them because, like you said, you get the better effect. You get the cream on both sides. But sometimes what I'd do is I would split it. And then I would kind of like scrape off half of it.
I've seen that, yeah.
And then eat the other part while the cream is there. Like I would just try to get both of the tastes going.
Good memories, guys. This is deeply sad.
They're definitely tasty. That's one thing you can say.
R.I.P. for my former Oreo eating self.
Yeah, they're tasty things. They're just not. They're no bueno for you. So that's the only problem.
Well, it depends on, listen, nutrition is a personal journey. Everyone has to decide what works for them.
But they are tasty.
Oh, yes. Shout out to those who still indulge and enjoy.
I don't think anybody would tell you that they're good for you, though.
We're not going to make those statements because A, we are not nutritionists, and B, I don't. It depends on what you define as good, right? Emotionally good, nutritionally good.
All right, great.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're trying to go on that thing.
Yes.
That anything's possible, right?
Possible.
Okay.
But before we go down that yellow brick road and your mind explodes, let's get this party started.
Well, we'll just get right into the topic now because we learned a little bit about both of our past. What values should we live by?
It's the essence of this episode. I'm so excited to talk about it because we haven't had a good rant in a while. So
Oh, really?
I'm kidding. We
have
one practically every week. So
surely we do.
Exactly. This is the best times of the day, and this is the time to talk about values. So I think there are many different values that are deeply important and deeply significant in our personal or professional, our careers, entrepreneurial endeavors, all of that good jazz. But here are some of the values that I think that people should adhere to. These are ones that I try to adhere to for myself. Do no harm to others or yourself. So I mean by that, not speaking harm over yourself or others, not physically, emotionally, spiritually harming yourself or others. This is not something that is currently adhered to across the planet. And it's interesting because it's it doesn't seem too hard to follow, but yet it's how long human beings have existed. We've struggled with that. So there's that. Next, creativity is a blessing, never a curse. So many parents, my own included, have really not necessarily embraced creativity out of their children. And whenever kids are like, I want to be an artist, I want to be a dancer, I want to be a musician, it's always
that's
like,
a curse.
be a lawyer, be a doctor, be a da. And listen, I'm not saying negative about either of those paths. What I am saying is that we as a society need to embrace creativity because that's how we move forward with our technology. That's how we move forward with education. That's how we move forward in business. Innovation is the future. It always has been. It always will be. So when your kid is demonstrating creativity, please nurture that. And if you want them to think about other options as well for career choices, then bring that to the table. But you can be a doctor who also paints, right? Like it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I would love for people to open their minds to the blessing of creativity. Next leads into very, very easily, which is there isn't one way to live. There isn't one way to succeed. There isn't one way to podcast. There isn't one way to have a relationship. There isn't one way to live, guys. I think that's
a value. So how do you call that a value?
I think it's a value because we should value freedom and autonomy. That's the value, essentially, is what that sentence is speaking to. There isn't one way to live. It's a value of freedom of existence, freedom of expression, freedom of life. That's the value. So freedom.
The value is not having like one rule that everybody needs to follow.
There's not one way to do any one thing in life. Because I think the reason I put that out there is because, again, people criticize and judge and condemn one way of doing something and anyone who tries to depart from that, right? So whether we're talking about sexual orientation or we're talking about gender constructs or we're talking about racial integration, like whatever the concept or construct is, sometimes we get so cornered into there's only one way to do something. And I think that this lends, that mind of thinking, that type of thinking lends to havoc in our society. And I really wish that people didn't do that. Next, reserve your judgment of others for the trash. No one needs it, not even yourself. So, judgment is dangerous, guys. It causes people to kill themselves. It causes people to self-harm. It causes people to harm others. So I think, easing up off of judgment, I think would be a value that I think needs to be in place.
What's the difference between judgment and critique?
So critique could be constructive versus judgment is usually just a negative kind of attack.
It's a one-way street then?
Yeah, and versus critique is like, I'm giving you this context so that you can be better and so that the conversation can lend to versus judgment is just like, oh, I see this person walking down the street
attack, right.
And it's just like, yeah, and there's no conversation versus critique, I think, can lend to conversation, but it's an excellent question. My next value is trust your gut. Your intuition will guide you, guys. Gabrielle Bernstein has a book called The Universe Has Your Back. And it's just like a wonderful, spiritual, enlightening book that helps you understand that you are not alone in the universe. We also did an episode about how if the universe sent you a newsletter, what would you say? What would you do? I really think that trusting your gut will lead you a lot further than distrust of your gut. So that's a value I would implore. Learn every day. You don't know enough. You never will. You'll never be Yoda. So we can keep trying, but we got to learn. And anyone who is offended by learning, who's offended by knowledge is deeply troubled. And I'm not judging you. I'm just saying you have to understand what you don't understand. And the only way to do that is to learn more and gather more information. How much have we learned this year about nutrition, about life, about, business, school, everything? Like, it's just, we got to keep learning.
Yeah.
We have to embrace uncertainty and challenges. Unfortunately, guys, human beings, we only grow in the moments of uncomfortability. We don't grow when we're comfortable. So we have to embrace these challenges, these moments of uncertainty more now than ever, right? We don't know if the world is going to ever return to some form of normalcy. And we've got to be okay with that, because if not, it's going to drive us crazy. We don't know, and we've got to be okay with not knowing. And then lastly, just being kind to yourself and others. It's 100% free to be kind to someone, and you need to care about the niceties and the pleasantries for which you share with others, because it's 100% free to do that. Booyah.
All right. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like a lot of your values.
Grazie.
So I'm going to add to some of it.
Yes.
And the first one, I think, and maybe one of yours touched upon it, but I think we have to learn how to accept others. And it's combined with as long as they are not causing harm.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that don't accept people for their practices, or
beliefs, existence,
all these other things. And I don't think that's right. I think you need to just accept them, because as long as they're not literally sacrificing animals people, animals.
Creatures.
People are animals, so
Yes.
I can count them the same. But as long as you're not doing sacrifices, and that's probably
or
okay,
molestation
right?
or rape. Yes.
Yeah, no, none of that. That's not.
Or mental abuse.
If there's any beliefs that accept that, that's pretty bad. But I know past religions, sacrifices used to be accepted, so that's not cool. And to see how it was causing harm, I think that's not great. But that's the kind of things that I think then we can talk about it. But if your belief isn't causing people harm, then so just let them do it, accept it.
I have a question though before you go on. Even if it's not causing harm, if it's still wrong. So for instance,
what do you mean wrong?
Do you accept people who per se maybe have racist or biased thinking, and maybe they don't act on that racism or bias, but should we still as a society accept that people walk around with those types of thoughts in their head?
No, the problem with that is, the only issue with that is that does cause harm, because it leads to economic disparity, educational disparity.
Okay.
It leads to, breeding hate,
generational hatred.
It leads to violence in some people.
Gotcha.
So it's not, I think that's not good to leave that brewing because it leads to other things.
Okay.
And that's
gonna, that's fair.
yeah, so that's the problem with that. So it does
But it's
lead to harm.
interesting, right? Because it's like,
technically,
can you,
if you just look at it, you may, I don't see any harm.
just a
No
belief
this is
idea.
just what I think.
Yeah.
But the problem is that belief goes and it affects your actions.
Creates institutionalized issues.
And it ends up harming people because everybody doesn't get the same treatment, which I think that's wrong. We should all have access to the same resources. And
I concur.
You thinking like that does not give us access. It literally doesn't. Because
it limits,
you could say, hey, you can't come in here because my beliefs say you're not allowed in here.
Even though they're not physically harming the person, that belief is harmful itself. Gotcha.
So that's wrong. And the second one is kind of similar. It's just, actually, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but mine is more specific, is that I think we should be open to learning about other cultures. So we all have we all have culture and whatever. We do these practices, but we should go and learn at least 10 others and be like, well, how do other people live?
That's incredible.
Why do they live like that? I mean, it should just be, that should be
like
on the books.
Normal thing
that should be, and it should be everybody has to learn that. And it's just,
I'm dying
and 10, not just one.
Yeah.
Like, I studied one
that.
country. No, you need to learn 10 cultures or more. But I think that needs to just be like mandatory because then it opens you up. You're like, wow, I never even thought about like celebrating like that. And I never, even thought on those terms.
Well, it opens up, it breaks down your own bias, and you see other ways of life.
You're just like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, for me, all my life, I've been fascinated by like Native Americans and their different narratives and their different cultures within that community. And it's just like, I would give anything to like just like be able to have a conversation and just like, yeah, I love that. And you mean like really learn, like get like in it, not just like from like books. You mean like visit a country?
Yeah, you go and you interact.
Beautiful.
You interact over video conferencing, stuff like
fantastic.
that, and you actually get deep into it and see where these practices come from. What do people?
We don't adhere to that at all.
No.
It's not a mandate. It's like
it's just kind of like if you want to. Like some people are foodies, that's like the closest
so
they get.
It,
They might learn the food, but I don't know if they're all
like
into the
learn
culture.
the language, learn the spiritual
learn
practices,
a little bit about like the language where it comes
history,
from.
Yeah,
it's just nice to see.
That's incredible.
And then you find out you're like, wow, maybe we're less different than I thought. That
ding,
too.
Ding, 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 ding.
Like, we do
we're
that too.
We're all a part of one race, the human race.
I didn't know you made curry. We have curry too. It's like stuff like that.
Bringing up the hurt. Yes. Can't have curry, guys. It's sad.
True.
But I digress. Yes.
I think another value is we should want everyone in our society to prosper. Not say that everybody can't make it and be accepting of that. I think that's messed up to just say.
The acceptance of poverty is
it seems kind of crazy when you if you really think about it and morally, it seems kind of messed up. They're like, you know what? That's on them.
Some people have to die. Some people have to struggle.
I'd even try to say, it must have been something they did. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Don't pass any of the blame because I think it's society's duty to make everybody prosper. Hey,
yes.
I feel that should be a value. And the last one is, it kind of wraps everything up, but it's very similar to your first value is value all human and animal lives. I think that should happen, which is messed up because I love steak, but eventually we should. All right. So my issue is I'm not like a vegan or anything. My issue is how we produce the animals. I think that's wrong. Like, they go through torture for us to have this yummy meal.
Yeah.
I think that's not right. I'm not against like technically killing animals for food because just think about that. All right. So we're humans. We stop killing animals for food. Great. What about the eagle that's still going to eat the rat? What about the lion that's still going to eat the whatever,
exactly.
I don't know, the antelope or something.
Yeah, yes.
Or a rhino or something, gazelles. Yeah. But the thing is like, I think we just took it to a whole nother level. Like we made it like a manufacturing industry. And I think that's a problem. Like it shouldn't be on that kind of level. But the problem is if everybody wants to eat, like great steak and all this stuff, there's not enough animals to do that. So that's why I think we do need an alternative, like a simulated type of meat.
Exactly. Absolutely.
and that's why I still think we should value all animal lives, just because it's right. I mean, we can't treat them like we're treating them like things.
They matter.
We're treating them like they're like a cell phone, right? They get pumped through factories. That's not
poor babies.
If it wasn't on that level, maybe it'd be a little better. But no, it's on a crazy level.
Correct. Yeah.
It should be almost like in the Upload show where only the few people were eating actual meat.
Yeah. You give a little teasers of, don't worry guys, that's coming. We will be talking about that Amazon show shortly. But I have another question for us to address, which is what values currently seem important in our society, since we talked about kind of our idealistic goals and values that we would want to adhere to in society.
Hey there. Do you have a book that you want to share with the WokeNFree Nation? Are you a business owner looking to share your product or service with the podcasting world? Well, guess what? You can book an ad with us on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. We're super excited to speak with you about curating a unique ad that will get your message across the WokeNFree platform. So go to the Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokenFree.com, because WokeNFree is more than a podcast. It's a way of life and offers an innovative way to promote your platform in the exploding podcasting space.
The first one comes down to human nature or psychology, and that's that we like to always be right. I think that's pretty important to us. It's even if we're wrong, we use cognitive dissonance to prove to ourselves that we made the right decision. So stuff like that is kind of interesting. What's currently important, what we can't do it is physically interacting with people. So some people are going out of their minds in a quarantine because they're not used to not being able to physically touch people. The next one is people love to complain without action. I think that's pretty important to people. And another one is fealty to a deity. So I'm just going to let that one sit with people. Another one, proving self-worth to the world. Everybody has to show how, they're really great and they exist. So it leads to people just, doing things that don't really make sense. And another one is creating social media following. So it's very important to have many people follow you on social media. That's like a big thing. And the last one is definitely making cat videos. Because there's a lot of cat videos on the internet.
Yes. Oh.
That's a value.
A wonderful breakdown. I guess for me, I would just add blaming others. Yeah, we love to, especially in America, the blame game, judging others. I mean, I personally feel like so much of my issue with my own family, even just like within family structure, is the judgment and the need to know, what you're doing, and so that they can make a judgment call and they can talk about it. That drives me crazy. Hello, Arizona. Harming others is, between war and famine and poverty and institutionalized breakdown of things, the harm is off the chain. Out of pocket, really. Improving the earth as well as equally destroying it, I think, is a contrasting, but sadly both efforts or values seem important amongst different groups on this planet. Hoarding money at the cost of human life seems to be a value that's cherished, maybe not by all, but by some. Exploring technology, and I think some communities are better at that than others. I think some people are more motivated with that than others, but that's a value. And then mindless fun on TikTok, guys. It's quite funny on there. So I think that's a current value, and
all right, interesting input there. That's what I could say. Why do you think values are important?
Values are important because we do not live for a very long time in the grand scheme of things. And we as human beings, we need grounding, we need focus, we need unity, peace, happiness, and having values and knowing them and teaching them to our youth and hearing about them from our elders and seeing them in mission statements, living them through businesses, having them be principles in your own business or your own goals, I think gives us that grounding, focus, unity, peace, happiness, etc. Without them, I feel like people feel lost because we are very much like creatures of habit, structure, and things like guiding us is helpful for the type of creatures that we are. And without it, I think it seems like chaos and people go a bit mad and it becomes kind of the Dark Knight situation happening where Joker's running and people don't understand and there's cards and then there's bombs and then there's an endless laughing. Wow. So it's like a whole situation. Mayhem, a beautiful word choice. So that's why I think why values are deeply important.
All right. Yeah, I think another thing is that it's good to understand your motivation in life, and values kind of give you that. They give you the grounding to understand that. So you understand, all right, I'm doing this because this is what's important, like, having these values. And then just having values, it lends to you leaving a positive impact on the planet itself, which I think that's what all of us need to do in the end before we leave.
Exactly.
Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario 1. Yi is arguing with her husband Oscar on whether it is morally right to circumcise their soon-to-be-born son. Yi says she doesn't want to put her child through needless pain. Oscar says that circumcision decreases the spread of venereal diseases and requires less maintenance. Whose values should be followed in this instance?
Oh, good Lord. Yi arguing with Oscar whether it's morally right to circumcise their son. Their soon-to-be son says she doesn't want. Okay. And then, so this is, oh, man, you went with a hard one. Okay. Oh, wow. Ooh. So there's different streams of thought on yay or nay for it. I think that, unfortunately, I really wish that Yi and Oscar had come to terms with this value or this idea before they even had a soon-to-be baby, because then there wouldn't be that conflict now. And because I feel like that's something you could have discussed, maybe not on the 3rd date, but maybe the 10th. Like, you could have talked about these ideas as opposed to being like, oh, the baby's going to be here, because someone has to win, right? So you want to know this decision.
There's no compromise.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, it has to go to one or the other. So, oh man, okay. Well, I mean, I would say my personal preference is for circumcision, just to, I think from an aesthetic perspective, as well as, just like, I have heard that it can require more of a cleaning regimen. And I don't necessarily know if men really want to adhere to that. I haven't spoken to enough men about the matter. So I'm not necessarily the most educated on whether like guys are like yay or nay on it generally. But my personal preference would be to go the circumcised version. Oh, wow. What's yours?
Mine is, I'm very rock solid on it. I'd say definitely circumcised. And that's only due to my values. And my values say, if you can decrease harming others, then that's a good thing. And this does that because sex can spread those venereal diseases with them uncircumcised penises. So you need to get that little foreskin off and, cut that in the bud. If you can decrease medical spread of diseases, I mean, to me, that's
it's interesting because there's a conflict though, because it's like, don't do harm to others. So technically it is painful.
But you got to harm one to save the many. That's what I say.
But it contradicts my value though of like, we shouldn't harm others. So I guess what we'd have to do is we'd have to have like,
but you are harming others.
Well, so
if you keep it, you can harm others
by having to cut that off. So that's painful. And the baby does feel that. But then, yes, you're saying there's a later result of harming others more. But however, we would need to also speak with a medical professional who could come on here and confirm that and or address it in deeper conversation.
They can, but I know
if WokeNFree Nation wants to discuss that more. I'm not sure how.
If they would have a whole episode about circumcision, they can.
If they're into it, man, guys, let us know. There's definite
benefits to it, not just religious.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Reasoning.
So like law, why we have like subsections and exceptions, I guess that would have to be an exception to the do no harm to others situation, which is, I could see that being one of A to Z kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Scenario 2. Tucker is an RN from the West Coast who decided to go to the epicenter of a recent pandemic. Tucker is a father with 6 children. Is Tucker making the right decision to put his life in danger to save lives while his children live without him?
Does Tucker have a good insurance policy?
Yeah.
Like a life insurance policy?
Tucker's an RN, so
he has a good healthcare plan and he has good life insurance?
Yeah.
Like we're talking at least $100K?
At least, definitely.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
I mean, that's funny to ask for the extra information, but all right.
Just context, right? We have to understand, because it's kind of like, is Tucker like struggling with no life insurance and doing this? It changes my answer, essentially, because even if he does essentially put his life in risk and ends up dying, at least his children aren't left in the dirt with nothing. And they're going to obviously miss their father for Tucker being a boy, right? Tucker, miss their father for the rest of their lives, but at least financially it would help along the way. This is an interesting question. We also talked about, do you risk your life for a stranger? I think what he would be doing is very symbolic for what's currently happening, and people who choose to risk their lives for others is an incredible sense of bravery. It's an incredible act that human beings, that they can do during these types of times that we're living in. We see the best of humanity and also the worst of humanity. And he would be the best of us, right? Because not everyone is willing to do that. So I say, yay, Tucker. Just make sure your estate planning is up to date. Everything's looking good. And then be careful and do it, because, if he doesn't, then we risk not having more people being able to be helped during a situation like what we're currently going through. So unfortunately, I think that this is the right thing to do.
Okay. So then I respectfully disagree with you.
Okay.
Because on the reasoning that if he had maybe one child, I'd be okay with it. But the fact that he has 6 kids makes me say, I think you need to be here for your children, and you putting your life at risk. I don't know if it's actually worth it, because who says that you go there and you actually save many lives? What if you go there and you just help spread it? Because this is like a recent thing. We don't know all the ins and outs of it.
So kind of like,
I think it's kind of risky. Yeah. To me, the risk isn't worth it. I know it's a nice an idea, and it's like, he's saving lives, he's doing this, but you have 6 kids. To me, that seems irresponsible as a parent. That's what I would say. Because you're saying, I'm sorry, kids, I'm going to go risk my life to do this thing that it might be helpful, but I could actually die and I could actually make it worse. I think the risks outweigh the benefits in this case. But that's a personal opinion for me.
Yeah, it's a hard debate,
that's crazy, but we
do
6 kids,
as
a lot.
As a podcast, though, we want to say that we are supportive of people who are helping during this pandemic. There are people who've come out of retirement to come help during what's going on, and I think that is an incredible act and gesture, and they are hopefully helping to save lives. And there's a lot of unknowns going on. I think 10 years from now, we'll be able to reflect and really maybe have that extra insight as to kind of like, what were the good things done? What were the wrong things done? ... But as of right now, it seems like an all hands on deck approach to dealing with this. And we appreciate anyone who's willing to do this. Same as when people sign up for defending the nation, right? We want to say thank you, I think. But it's a hard question for sure.
Scenario 3. Yamiche has an impressive portfolio of businesses that rely on the parent company's infrastructure to survive. Because of the pandemic, Yamiche needs to sell off one of her businesses. Should she sell off the business that is trying to eliminate poverty since it makes the least money, or choose one of the other businesses which just operate for profits?
Yeah, so that's interesting. She's trying to eliminate since it makes the least money. Okay.
Yeah, it's a question of do you...
social good versus monetary good, right?
Yeah.
Wow, hard ones this week. Okay. So my personal decision is, as much as it is important to be in business to make money and to create generational wealth for you and your family, it is also important, as Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about recently, the value of humanity imprint, right? What are you doing that's making the world a better place? And I think that that's not just something that we put onto the heads and shoulders of the top 1 to 5% of our nations, but we all play a role in our humanity footprint that we're leaving. And even if you have a business, even if it's not the most profit generating, if it's attacking poverty, which is one of the things that I think since the beginning of time we've struggled with as human beings. People have always suffered and people have always not suffered. I couldn't in my right consciousness say, sure, go away with the business that's helping to eliminate a plight that is completely unnecessary and unfortunate and physically, emotionally, spiritually devastating. I would say she's gonna have to find another way, find a way to make that business more profitable, but do not stop fighting poverty. This is a must. If we all gave money and gave time to help against poverty, we wouldn't have it. Right. So poverty is really kind of a symbolism or a manifestation of selfishness and greed. And someone who already is in that space, I wouldn't want her to leave. I'm assuming this is a woman.
Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't want her to leave that space. In fact, she needs to get more creative, think outside of the box to make that business profitable and not have to eliminate it.
I will have to respectfully agree with you.
Bravo.
Because, yeah, this is a long-term society thing that I think would be very beneficial.
Yes.
Instead of saying, oh, personally, I want to make, more this year. She could just say, well, I can actually help I could reach a bigger group of people if I keep this business that's eliminating poverty, because that's affecting everybody around me. Our whole society is on the line compared to this business. I mean, they're good and all, but I can take the cut, because I'm still doing good. I have a lot of businesses, right? This is not just like I'm relying on this one. Because if it was only the one and it was the one that eliminates poverty, I mean, then she'd have to figure out how to kind of make the money back. Mm-hmm. That would make it a little bit tougher. But since she has all these other businesses, I think she's okay, getting rid of one of them.
Good.
So yeah, that's not a bad idea.
We agree. It must be a good day indeed.
True. Mm-hmm. Truth you speak.
We are at that time again. It is coming to the end of our 142nd episode of WokeNFree. Oh my. This was quite the episode discussing what values we should live by. We hope that you enjoyed the episode. We hope that you are on the edge, can't wait to join. You're going to be putting in your comments. You're going to be sharing your values. We want to know, did we mention any values that were important to you? Were there values that you were like, guys, bye Felicia, absolutely not here for? We want to know. So please make sure that you put that in the comments on WokeNFree.com by downloading the Podbean app. That's how you can add your comments there. And then, of course, all of our episodes are also on our YouTube channel. So if you're like, I'll hit you on YouTube, can't wait to hear from you. Will we leave you hanging for what our next episode will be about? Drum roll, please.
On our next episode, we'll be doing another special WokeNFree story time called Honored Tree. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you want to be a guest on the show, submit a topic for an upcoming episode, share how you feel, you can find us on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokeNFree.com. When it comes to social media, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, TikTok at WokeNFree. And then, of course, want to collab with us? Visit our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokeNFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokeNFree is more than a podcast, it is a way of life. Until next time.